Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are again, another Saturday flying by us. Well, they just seem to be going so quickly. And a little bit of a mistake. We thought this one was our first year's anniversary, Stephen, so I do apologise. So, save the gifts and the chocolates and the flowers, my friends. It's going to be a little bit later, and we'll announce exactly when it is, because I think we should do something very, very special. Not saying that these aren't special occasions every Saturday, Steve. Now, indeed. Big day today, another lovely full day of rugby. And as you can see, I'm hedging bets. I've got every single flag there is. You've obviously gone for it. So fair play to you. Big game today.
Well, yes, this is, Ireland, England today, and Scotland, Italy, I think. Is that right? Scotland, Italy, yeah. So I've, the only reason I've got the Ireland shirt on is not because necessarily I'll be barracking for Ireland in the rugby all the way, but because it's the week of St. Patrick's Day, Chris. That's
there you go.
Choice today. Although a man, I have been accused nobly by somebody no less than Mr. Terry Ramage of being a man of many colours when it comes to suit the occasion. So anyway, Terry, all in today. Unlike my friend here who's hedging his bets across the board.
Yeah, no, that's well.
Nobody's a loser. Everybody's a winner on your shirt today, Chris.
There you go, son. There you go. Now, another nice little thing. I've got a lovely gift for you, because I know you love your aircraft, and I'm going to mention it now because it'll be up fully next weekend show. But care of Lewis from Albion, who's now created Plane Souk. I've got a couple of plane tags coming for you. Now, when I say plane tags, what they are is they're actually they're cut from the recently retired British Airways 747 aircraft, G-CIVI, or otherwise known as the City of Gloucester or Victor India. And it's made from the actual aircraft, and that aircraft flew for just over 24 years, and it clocked up just over 14,000 flights and just over 100,000 flight hours, which is amazing. And it was first delivered by Boeing to British Airways back in the UK on the 2nd of May, 1996, 25 years ago, my goodness me. And thereon it flew mainly transatlantic routes to the US hub airports, including New York, Boston, and San Francisco. And it was one of BA's highest density configured aircraft. It was an absolute beauty and a queen of the skies. So, Stephen, one of them is coming for you. Now, for anybody else who might want to get one of these, there's only 500 of them. And you'll have to let us know next week, and we'll put the address and where you can get one ordered if you're interested. But they're lovely.
That's very kind of you, Chris.
It's my pleasure, mate. They come in blue and red, very appropriate for again today. But they really look the part. They're really lovely. So that's a little gift for you, Steve. Set it all off, and we'll announce it next weekend for anybody else who wants to have one. Now, another we had Callum Hogg, who gave a question about the visa pass and about what was going on. So I think straight away, Steve, jumping into it, loads of good news. UK doing fantastically well with the vaccines. Everybody knew there'd be a little bit of a hump in the road, and we've got that now with these 5 million that are due from India. But it's the way it's been ping-ponging in Europe that's driving me mad. And now, even though things were going well, there's a threat now that there might be a little bit of a delay or a blip in what we can do this summer for our holidays.
Well, look, again, we've touched on this a couple of times, and I say again, look, it doesn't help to be sneering at others for their inability to roll out the vaccine at the same pace as their former members of the European Union. I think that doesn't help really. But what is important, Chris, of course, in terms of the vaccine, and having an effective vaccine, actually, it's got to be a level of the population across all of Europe and all of the globe to ensure that that everybody is equally protected. So what I do think is a problem is the fact that the UK is racing ahead now. Arguably, there might be these little blips or little humps in the road, as you call it. And the Europeans have just made an absolute pig's ear of it. It really is quite disappointing. And I have had, even this week, another few friends, the most ardent of Remainers, really sort of come to terms with this and say, look, this is an absolute diabolical farce. And herein lies the fundamental problem with the level of bureaucracy that the European Union operate through, that actually is they're playing kind of what's the phrase, sort of fast and loose with people's lives, Chris, with the unqualified statements about vaccine effectiveness or potential side effects from vaccine. So of course they all now look rather embarrassed and have had to make this massive U-turn and then now continue ahead with the push with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Ironically, of course, after a period of time where they were debating and fighting about the source of the vaccine and not wanting the vaccine particularly much in the first place. Now it seems to be like hot potatoes. It can't get enough of the things. So I just find the whole thing rather embarrassing. It is rather unfortunate that politics is getting in the way in this rollout. And I can honestly say, Chris, now the effect of all of that has direct to our industry is palpable. It will be set us back again, even with the advent of things like digital certificates or digital travel passports or digital green certificates, as the European Union are calling them. I don't know why green, but green.
Well, you can tell why. You see, Stephen, deep down, sorry to interrupt you. Deep down, right? And my granddad and loads of my uncles always used to say there are only two types of people, mate: those that are and those that wish they were.
Irish.
Indeed.
Irish.
That's why they want their green pass, mate.
I mean, plastic paddy. I've been referred to on occasions. As Taylor Ramage said, I can wear the shirt when it suits. There's a shirt for every occasion, Chris.
Any paddy's a good paddy, mate, plastic or not.
But hey, look, the coming back to the effectors, I think this will have an effect on where people can travel or where they're expecting to travel this summer. I don't think it'll be potentially as damaging as last year, but I think for European airlines and European travel sector, this is unhelpful issue that the European Union are not able to pull themselves together and get their stuff in order to ensure, one, that the population is safe and that they're making the right decisions from a health perspective, but two, that they can actually start to reopen their economies to tourism that everybody's so desperately wanting to do.
And especially this year, when for probably the first year ever, the Brits would have been the most popular tourists anywhere.
Yes, possibly.
Yeah, because of the vaccinations.
Well, the Brits, I mean, they're popular in some quarters, Chris. I'm not sure that they'll ever endear themselves to all, particularly when they're sort of sitting down the Costa, expecting the best English to be spoken and the best sort of English fry-up to be served, and complaining that Spain's lovely, but yeah, the food, not so keen on that foreign muck, you know.
Mate, I can't wait to get back to Spain. Can't wait.
You and me both, Chris. We were supposed to be traveling again this weekend. We're supposed to be in Langkawi, and I'm not in Langkawi because I'm in my study, as you can see. However, there we go. We just take it on the chin. That's it. Holiday number 4 this year, cancelled, and it's only the 20th of March.
Yeah, no, but it's such a shame that, and I think it's like anything. If you have too many chiefs, it's very hard to make a decision. And I think that the agility and the flexibility that the UK has been able to show has been phenomenal. And there's too many people wanting to have a say. And I think the trouble now, Steve, is, right, it's a tough one for the politicians. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But too many of now are trying to make that definitive statement, or that they're the ones who knew best. And I just think that's ridiculous. And again, back to the data-driven decision-making, let the scientists give the guidelines and do what's right. They're
always in this for themselves, Chris, and every decision they make is peppered with electoral risk. You know, some parts of the electorate will be positive towards it and others will not. But as a boss of mine once said, a chap that will be known to many listening to this podcast, a guy called Tony Fernandez, he said to me, as I was trying to be, I guess, rather collegiate and engaging with my team and my colleagues, he said, Stephen, too much democracy is never a good thing. Just make a decision, man. Yeah. And I remember that always, So there are times that being collegiate and engaging with people and ensuring these wanky words that you hear nowadays, coming on the journey with us and all that sort of bollocks. You do sort of think, you got to bring people on the journey, but sometimes actually you need a strong leader just to make a decision and make sure that the people, if they're not always hearts and minds. Sometimes you need people to take difficult decisions, and there's lots of difficult decisions that have been taken in this crisis that are unpopular, but they've delivered some really good outcomes, I suspect.
Yeah. Well, Boris has got a lot on his plate this year now, in a good way and a bad way. He's had his vaccine now yesterday, so he's all pumped up. So I'm sure his arm is feeling a little bit sore today. But he's also cut the air passenger duty. So now he's being criticised as pulling back on his green merits and his green commitment, but he's also given a little bit of support for the industry. So again, there he is. He's caught between the devil and the deep blue yet again.
Well, look, I mean, I think what the rationale was that if there was no alternative, a greener form of transport, then aviation is often the only option. And Chris, you've taken the train, I'm sure, from the southwest of England. Yep. Maybe not as far north as I have, but when you're traveling from the southwest of England to Inverness, that's a pretty arduous 10 or 11 hour journey on a train. Yep. So you might want to call it green, but actually, alternatively, it's an hour and a half or an hour 45 flight, and it's probably a tenth of the price on the aircraft than it is on the train. Yep. So there are tough decisions like that mean that domestic air travel is still required, particularly in public service obligations when there is no alternatives and nothing better. I mean, I just wish you'd scrap air passenger duty altogether. I mean, that is my view. APD is a punitive tax that does nothing for the environment. It does nothing to stop people flying. And actually, all it does is fill the government's coffers, and actually it reduces the latent potential for travel, because what you then do is you are sort of hamstrung with your price elasticity. And so actually what you're doing is suppressing demand. What we'd rather do in aviation terms is say, look, let's find an alternative, in terms of the green credentials. And there's a lot of work going on in the space, as you know, Chris, in terms of airports, electrification, airlines, non-carbon fuels, etc. And APD is a blunt instrument. I think what we would see is more GDP contribution, more investment in the economy, if you get rid of a direct tax like APD.
Yep, totally agreed. And I think you've mirrored the words there of Jonathan Hinkles from Logan Air, who've got a great opportunity now domestically. So he was saying exactly the same. Some of the routes are ridiculous with the amount of time in comparison. So you've got to do as much as you can to stimulate that sector.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. And then old Boris has got the G7 group. So we've got the presidency of that. So a big influencing year for old Boris and the boys.
And not to forget COP26, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Realistic.
In which our green credentials will be on show, of course, down in Cornwall, of all places, as I just mentioned, the southwest. So
yes, indeed. We're going to have to get those T-shirts back out. Yeah, the old Boris brings Britain back.
Boris brings Britain back, indeed.
Hey, that's another little item of clothing that everybody should have.
This show is supposed to be apolitical, of course, Chris. We're supposed to be sort of non-partisan here, but there we go.
Yeah, no, why not? Good on him. He's bouncing back. Fair play to the man. But nonetheless, Greece, Cyprus, they're still optimistic. They're still welcoming people back and hoping to do so with anybody who's got a valid vaccination. And also the proof of antibodies, and also the test to show that they're negative. So everybody's looking down those routes now, and I think that's not a bad thing. And then, we've got football tournaments, we've got the Lions Tour, we've got so many things to look forward to. And then, of course, there's the World Cup next year, which brings us to the link there with Qatar, because now they've been put on the red list. And as one of the
thrown my plans into disarray.
Yeah, but ironically, they've actually been like a Noah's Ark of the sky, haven't they? Because anybody anywhere who needed to get anywhere was they were beginning to look to Qatar to get them where they needed.
It was the only game in town, Chris. It was the only rodeo in town, and therefore it was serving a real kind of public service, if you like. Yeah. And it would have come at great expense to the airline and to the state of Qatar, because every flight that I took on Qatar, which I took probably I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 or so, probably since March last year, it was they were less than probably 20-30% load factor. So they're not commercially viable, but the state of Qatar saw an opportunity, and I think in true Akbar style, the chief went for it, and the Qatari Armada was released and into places that they'd never flown before. They're using this for expansion into new ports as well, which were underserved because other carriers had pulled off. Yeah. I do think, however, Qatar have been rather unfair. I mean, Qatar Airways, sorry, not the state necessarily, but Qatar Airways have been rather unfairly penalised by the UK government. I think the UK government only reacted in the way that they did because they saw Qatar as that very back door into the UK that the UK government had tried to close already, Chris, particularly from the likes of Dubai, that now is the hotspot of COVID. Yeah. And as a result, because Dubai was getting lots of commendations for how well they'd handled their response, but of course they opened the doors very early. Consequently, they maybe too early. I wouldn't like to say, but potentially too early, and that was a problem. So the UK government closed the Dubai route, and of course everybody then moved through Qatar to get back there, even though Qatar was trying to protect some of the with restrictions from Dubai into Doha. So I think they've suffered as a result of some unfair spotlight being on Qatar Airways as this back door, rather than actually solving the problem. I don't know. I think it causes a much bigger problem personally in the likes of getting Britons back home, or British residents back home into the UK from places that they now can't. So, for example, I was due to be coming back next month with my wife, and now we're kind of scuppered because that's our normal route out of here. So, there's many more in my boat. I'm not complaining. That's just a fact. I'm perfectly capable of making alternative arrangements myself, but without the need of the government holding my hand, which some people seem to still think they should. But personal responsibility, Chris, is the way forward in this battle through this crisis.
That's it. But now on another note, and something that's we both know quite well, Saudi have, firstly, they've opened up for their expected people to be allowed back in again somewhere just after the mid of May, which is good. But they've also made the huge commitment now for an investment for 73 new aircrafts, and they've got all the banks there lined up to support it. But that's a good thing, huh? Nice that they're modernising the fleet. I mean, you and me have flown so many times in and out and within. But it's nice that they're doing that now. So that's a good move for them.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. A small disaster here. There, some domestic issues. Can you close my door again, please? Never mind. I'll do it myself. You want a job done in this house? Do it yourself.
That's it, mate. Taking personal responsibility.
Chris, I was slightly distracted there. What was the question or the point?
I was just saying it's a nice touch now that Saudi, they've made a commitment.
Oh yes, Saudi. Sorry, yes.
73 aircraft.
Well, Chris, let's not forget. I mean, they went through a massive modernization a few years ago, fleet modernization. When at one stage we were taking, I say we because you and I were there. We were working for Saudi in the kingdom, and we were taking at one stage 1 777 every 2 weeks. And I remember we got process, so well oiled and the entry into service down pat that the aircraft arrived from the US and landed. And I think within 6 hours, it was on its first commercial service. That's how that. I mean, it was. That process was for an entry into service from us taking delivery of the aircraft, which was phenomenal. And those that are in the know about that kind of stuff, that's a pretty good benchmark. So look, good on them. I mean, great to see the financing behind it as well. Interesting, they use some commercial banks as well, Chris, which I think is a move away from the old Saudi, where if you remember, Chris, we had the MOF, Ministry of Finance, were heavily involved in using taxpayers, there was no taxpayers in those days. There are taxpayers now, of course, but those days, Chris, when we were there was no taxpayers, but using the government funds. And so nice to see they've broken away from that. They're not and I think that's the whole agenda of diversification agenda that the Crown Prince is running. I think I know there are those that are not so keen with the kingdom, and those that are a bit sycophantic. I would say I'm very pragmatic about the kingdom, and I think it does lots of good things. Don't knock it till you've tried it, I always say. I've been amazed by the amount of people that have gone to work there or visit the kingdom in recent times, and they come back with only positive things to say about the kingdom. So I'm certainly a fan, as I know you are, Chris.
Yeah, and they're banking on being 100 million of them every year with their new drive for tourism. And the one thing, I mean, it's a huge country. I think it's the 13th largest landmass. And there's so many things to see. I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised when they get the chance to go there. Plus, it's one of the few places in the world that most people would never have thought they'd get the chance to go and see. So very, very good.
Chris, just what remind me to talk about Saudi, because Callum's in Qatar. So Callum from Doha, I know he asked a question last week. What was the question he asked that he wanted answered? I can't remember.
He wanted an opinion of well, it was basically, what did he think was going to happen with the visa, the visa and the pass and the vaccination passport, whether or not it would be a good thing, a bad thing, will it actually work, will it not work? But to be fair, Nick Careen and his IATA travel pass seems to be getting good momentum. So again, Korean is now partnering up with them. There's a lot of carriers signing up for it. He's desperate to get something that's recognized everywhere, that'll be used. And
I think so. I think the problem is there are too many actors in the room at the minute, and everybody seems to have developed systems or built systems that pretend they can be better than the other. And actually, that's not what this needs. What this needs is close collaboration.
Exactly. Yeah. Bring everything into the mixing pot. Yeah.
Yeah. Backing one or two horses. What I do think is, I certainly think for international travel, the travel pass will become commonplace for as long as it's needed. And I think there should be a finite period. I think that shouldn't be any longer than is necessary. I think, however, for domestic travel or interstate travel within countries, I think it's probably for the airlines of their own volition to do their own thing to satisfy their own customers, but certainly without specifying that customers must be vaccinated for travel. That should never be a statement that is made by a private sector organization. I think.
Yeah, but Steve, I think, do you know what I mean? If they want to make people feel, I mean, you and me got a little bit of difference on here. I think anybody who wants to get their business back and wants to make sure that people feel more comfortable, they've got every right to say, I'm sorry if you got this, because there's an alternative with the tests, Steve. So that's also to be allowed. So it's only people who don't. And just coming to that, just a couple of things to end on, which I thought were quite amazing, was you got Marilyn Hartman, that 69-year-old serial stowaway, the amount of times she's managed to get on to an aircraft through security with no passport, no ticket, no money, no nothing. And she's supposed to be having dementia or something. How in God's name does a frail old lady like that manage to do it? And she was only caught this time because she had a tag on in her home. And when she left the home, they were able to track it. And now, bless her, she's looking like she's getting a prison sentence. But how on earth, Steve, does somebody get through all of those layers of security?
Well, because, Chris, a lot of this became commonplace for the wrong reasons. And if you know, every journey she took originated where? in the United States of America, a country that we know to have very poor ramp safety standards, a country that we know that has a lot of pretense rather than real kind of practice and policy to deliver and affect change in improving standards or delivering better outcomes or delivering better operational process. You look at how kind of weak they are in some of these areas, Chris. I'm not surprised this happened. Interestingly, she was only caught when she arrived at the border, when she got elsewhere into overseas ports. Of course, if she's arriving domestic, nobody would ever bat an eyelid. I think, however, remember one thing is she was that frail old lady. So when you're risk profiling somebody, and when we sort of are responsible for security and look, responsible for aircraft access, or we look at threats. Would you view the guy in the balaclava that walks into the bank with a gun in his hand in the same way as you would watch a little old lady with a walking stick and a handbag and a grey raincoat? No, you would not, Chris. So there is some simple differentiation that means that she was able to blend in, and she knew that. So if anybody thinks that this frail little old lady actually was had a cog or two loose up there, quite the contrary. She was a very smart lady who knew exactly what she was doing, and she should face the full force of the law.
There you go. So coming up probably next year or the year after, there'll be a Martin Scorsese film about a load of frail old ladies who have got some hidden secrets.
Indeed, and exposed. Look, I mean, we've seen all these sort of exposés, on dispatches or Panorama about security and airports and drinking those days. Remember the drinking and the alcohol sort of before flight, etc. We've seen all that sort of stuff. So I suspect, these events happen. They do happen. They shouldn't happen. I'm not excusing it, but when you fit that kind of profile and there are processes in place to be aesthetically or visually pleasing, what actually risks are they reducing, Chris? Are they reducing or making the customer feel more comfortable? And say, oh, there's security. Yeah, we're going to go through security. But actually, what does that security do? We all know that lags get missed in bags. We all know that people can slip through something. So really, there's going to be a root and branch fundamental, revisit of some of these controls to ensure that they are fit for purpose and doing what it says on the tin.
Yeah. But I still, Steve, I just can't. The TSA. I've always had a problem with that. Anyhow, the way they speak to you, not the principle and what they stand for and why, but they don't seem to get any training whatsoever on how to.
Well, if you remember, the reason the TSA was created was after 9/11, Chris. Because the government wanted to take it and centralize all the aviation security rather away from private contractors. We have private contractors in Europe. We have private contractors here in Asia. We have police in some countries doing airport security. It's a mishmash.
Yeah, but it's just the way they speak to people. It's better to get people on your side. And sometimes I think the TSA stands for talk so annoyingly because they just bam, boom, boom, boom.
Well, it's that American fakeness, really, isn't it? Thank you, sir. 3 bags full, sir. Thank you, ma'am. It's all over them.
Oh. But on the other hand, now I did a lovely session with Tampa Airport yesterday. And my God, I really, really enjoyed a guy called Chris Minner, who was he's the EVP at Tampa Airport. He really cares. He's a really good lad. Nice fella. That was very positive. And then on the flip side, I don't know if you've seen on the news as well, you see that fight that broke out because of the two anti-maskers on the aircraft, and the whole plane had to be deboarded, and they were booing them, and then the ladies just set two with each other. It was not very good thing to see. So
lock him up.
Anti-maskers.
Lock him up.
There you go.
Well, in Malaysia, we get a 10,000 ringgit fine, Chris. That's £2,000. £2,000. And actually, there's a lot of press every day about, how the police applied the law, or, how this old lady was, contravening the ordinance and was fined. People are complaining about it. But look, the police are doing their job. It's the ministers that are at fault for these things, not the police. The police are the implementation arm. So I feel sorry for the police in many ways. But yeah, look, if you're not willing to comply, either stay at home and shut up, or go out and do as you're told. Very simple.
There you go. Obviously, you took notice of Tony's words all those years ago. We ended with a very clear message from the man in green. So without further ado, thanks everybody for listening. Steve, thanks again for another good week.
Pleasure.
We'll try and work out the exact date for the anniversary because we need to give some acknowledgements out. And like you said the other week, we need to reflect on some of the magics and tragics of this last year.
Very good. Thanks, Chris.
And the tags will be available, and there's a limited edition, only 500. So anybody who wants one, tune in next week.
Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend, Chris.
Nice to see you. Another week flying by. Cheers.